Here's three different hypothetical price scenarios that I'm considering when it comes to XPR that I have on my mind. In an event where maybe, let's say, there is even a fully fledged type of altcoin season during this cycle. However, even though nothing I say is financial advice, the first price scenario that I do want to explore is maybe the idea of XPR at the price of 20 cents, which is around a 34.5x from here, and the market cap at that point, considering current circulating supply, it'd be around 5.5 billion. The reason why this wouldn't necessarily surprise me is because I like the fundamentals of XPR, and let me explain why. For instance, if we take a look at the XPR network, it is a layer 1 proof of stake blockchain. Now, some people may be thinking, okay, isn't there a lot of that? However, I think that there is somewhat of a unique factor here because, for instance, right, the XPR network allegedly provides an alternative to traditional payment systems like ACH and SWIFT or Visa and even MasterCard through an innovative resource model. So I find that pretty cool and pretty interesting. The way you take a look at it is that it's basically focused on the payments market and the global trade and finance market. By the way, those two markets, I also think Ripple and Stellar are heavily focused on that as well. As of right now, supposedly, the payments market is valued at over 2 trillion, so I find that very impressive. And also on top of that, the global trade and finance market is predicted to reach up to $5 trillion in value by 2028, according to Mordor Intelligence. So overall, I like the sectors that this project is focused on. However, with that being said, some people may be thinking okay, XPR must have a lot of competition within its space, right? However, I don't think there's actually too much, and let me explain what I mean by this. Of course, we know the market leaders like Ripple and Stellar, but then I think beyond that, there really isn't that many that are that popular. I'm just gonna explain what I mean by this, right? Of course, there's an alternative like XDC, and I'm talking about XPR as of right now. So that's two. And number three, in no specific order, right? We take a look at XCN. Number four is EBCN. We also take a look at Swiftcoin. So if let's say we even minus Ripple and Stellar out of this equation, and if we take a look at XPR solely, again, within that sort of group of competitors, that's four other than this. So I find that very impressive. If we take a look at other market sectors out there, there's 20 or 30 famous and very just well-known competitors, right? But then when it comes to this specific, market, I don't think there's actually that many that are that popular. So I find that pretty interesting. However, also on top of that as well, what I just like about, this project in general is that, again, I like its positioning. I like how the market cap isn't necessarily too massive because, again, the market cap is currently below 200 million. If we take a look at something again, XLM, for instance, the market cap is already in the many billions, right? It's around 10 billion right now. So the way you take a look at it is that it kind of reminds me of a miniature version of that, but then it just has a way lower market cap. So this is why I'm still a fan of the project. Now, I'm not telling you to do anything, by the way, but this is just the way I take a look at it. And hypothetically, maybe the idea of 20 cents during a fully fledged type of hypothetical altcoin season, it wouldn't necessarily surprise me. However, the second hypothetical price scenario that I do want to explore is maybe the idea of 23 cents. That's nearly a 40x from here, and the market cap at that point, considering current circulating supply, it'd be nearly 6.5 billion. The reason why this wouldn't necessarily surprise me is because, for instance, I saw XRP not too long ago reach a market cap of around 200 billion. And hypothetically, I don't think we've seen a fully fledged type of altcoin season during this cycle. And it was able to do that. So this isn't even 5% of that. But this is just my perspective, right? And also I've seen, something like Shiba Inu reach around $40 billion in market cap back in 2021. And again, this just doesn't seem like too much of a ridiculous market cap to me, but only time will tell. However, the third and final hypothetical price scenario that I do want to take a look at is maybe the idea of 25 cents. Now that's, around a 43x from here, and market cap at that point would be nearly 7 billion if we were to consider the current circulating supply. However, some people may be thinking, okay, why would you even still believe in this space if the altcoin space isn't necessarily doing the best right now? I'm totally aware of that, but I still take a look at the factors that I'm seeing right now, for instance, over 600 million crypto owners currently, which is supposedly more than ever before in history. I take a look at the Bitcoin ETF, the Ethereum ETF. I get it, the market is gonna do what it wants, it's beyond my control, right? But then I still like the factors right now. However, when people like to ask me, okay, what is the timeline? And sometimes people like to say, oh, things aren't necessarily looking the best. Why do you still, think about the future? Well, it's because for me, again, what happens in the short to medium term, it's going to be beyond my control. So whenever even the altcoin season, hypothetically, if it ever even does happen during this cycle, whether or not it happens maybe next month, or let's say all the way up until even maybe near the end of Q1 of 2026, like maybe around March or something like that, right? Again, I have no control over that. The only thing I can do is just, dollar cost average hold, and I just wait for the projects that I do like. And that's pretty much about it. I mean, beyond that, I can't really do anything else, right? Like, I cannot demand the market to do this or do that. So ultimately, I'm just going to stay patient. And if I believe in the future of this space, which, again, I can only speak on my behalf when it comes to that, the way I take a look at it is that I'm going to stay patient because I know that along the journey, there's going to be, these ups and downs. But again, if I take a look at maybe what the future could be, I'm just still staying patient and just waiting. And literally, that's about it. Again, just dollar cost averaging, holding, and just waiting. And feel free to subscribe if you enjoyed this video. I'd greatly appreciate it. It's been Lee the Captain, and I'll catch y'all on the next one. I'm out. Peace. Bye.